Hey everyone, it's Cindy and welcome back to my channel, or if it's your first time here, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you watching. Today's video is a replay of Feel Good Friday that took place on my Facebook page on Friday the 25th of August. Feel Good Friday happens every week at 9:30 AM UK time on a Friday. That's why it's called Feel Good Friday. I don't know why I needed to tell you that. Anyway, rambling. Feel Good Friday. Oh, and the topic was voted for by business mums and working mums over on my page, who chose who filled out a survey and chose this as their second most challenging thing about running a business or working with kids in the school holidays. And last week I covered the #1 topic, so if you want to find out what that is, you can look at my page or look at my previous videos here on YouTube. But today's topic was how to structure your time effectively. So if you'd like to find out more about that, then just keep watching. Hello, it's Friday and that means it's time for Feel Good Friday. And today we're talking about how to structure your time to get the most out of it. So we've been looking at what mums are facing in the school holidays, mums who've got businesses and also mums in jobs. And I did a survey on my page, and the top result is what we talked about last week, which is about prioritising and making sure that we're actually doing the right things that need to be done. And I'm just checking to see if it's actually broadcasting this week. It looks like it is, I can't tell, so hopefully some people come on and comment and then I'll know. So so last week we talked about prioritising and all that kind of stuff, and so now that we've got an idea of what are the best things that we need to be doing, what we need to be focusing on to be most effective, now let's see how we can structure our time and get the most out of the time that we do have, because in the holidays time's a lot more limited and we need to make the most of it. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. My name's Cindy Davis, in case I haven't met you yet, and I'm the Feel Good Coach. And I help mums in business in particular, but lots of other people too, to be more effective, be more happy, to be more, just generally more, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of the word, and that's the trouble with live videos. Hooray! It is broadcasting. Hi, Tina. It's so great to see you. Oh, marvellous. It's working. So sorry, I've had some technical stuff, and now I'm excited. Where was I? I got completely lost. What's happening today? Oh yes, I help people to be more effective, and I do that by helping them to get really clear about what they want and work out how they might be stopping themselves in some way, perhaps by self-sabotaging or just not doing what they need to do as effectively as they could. And then I help them put in place plans that will get them moving in the way that they want to be moving, because, you know, standing still ain't much fun. So the aim today is to give you practical tips. That's what I'm all about. It's got to be practical, something you can put into practice to help you structure your time more effectively and make the most of that little bit of time that you do have when you're working around kids or any of your other commitments in your life. So I'm going to do that in 3 parts, and the first part is going to be about routines, and they used to be my enemy, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. Then I'm going to be talking about, I'll tell you a story about big rocks. And then in the third part, I'll be talking about one of the tools that I use that helps me to be effective, which is a default diary. And you might not have heard of that, so we're going to go into more detail in a little bit. So let's move on to part 1. We've had a look at the introduction and everything that's going to happen, so let's move on to part 1, which is all about routines. Now, I'm the kind of person that is very much a butterfly and easily distracted, and I don't like being constrained. So Tina, give me a comment if you are, if you can identify with that, or are you a really organised person? So is it just a natural thing for you? Because for me, it's not a natural thing. And I used to really struggle with understanding why other people seem to be able to be so organised and keep on top of stuff. And I felt like I was floundering a lot of the time. And a long time ago, I read a book. No, I didn't read a book. I found a website by this lady called Marla Silly, and she's the Fly Lady, and you might have heard of her, you might not. And she she was a similar kind of personality type to me, in that she couldn't understand why people could be so just naturally organised and then she just couldn't. So she calls them born organised people, or BOs, which isn't very flattering. And she came up with tools to help herself and support herself in becoming more organised in a way that suited her and made it fun. And as you know, fun's my middle name. Everything's got to be fun. Well, not everything, but I like to have an element of fun in most things in my life, and it helps me to do the things that I need to do. So routines are quite an old-fashioned idea. Back in the day, you used to have, Monday was washing day and Thursday would be dusting, and it was very much routine, and it's just how people ran their houses, because it was the only way they could keep on top of everything. And so what the Fly Lady did is she took that idea and came up with lots of different ideas to make it fun. So I highly recommend you check out her website if you are wanting to get more organised. It's flylady.net. So I can see Tina's commented. Let's see what she has said. So when you're working, I was extremely organised, but since being retired, I'm not so good at being organised. It's because I can now choose when I work on my business, so I don't have a strict routine. This is true. And that's one of the problems with being... Just wait for the motorbike. That's one of the challenges of when you're self-employed, and also one of the best bits. So the best bit is you get to choose, when you work and when you don't work. And then it's also a challenge because you can choose not to work and find that you're not getting stuff done. And ultimately, in the long term, that doesn't make you happy. So routines, where they used to be my enemy, when I started doing Fly Lady stuff, and the routines with her are all around sort of the house and that kind of stuff. But when I got into that, it helped me to kind of become friends with routines and realise that having a routine is actually helping me. And it doesn't have to be too constraining, and I can make it fun. So that's how I have become friends with routine. And the way I do that is with checklists. Now hang on a minute, I should have prepared this. Oh, there it is. So every week I do Feel Good Friday. And there's a lot of things around it. I mean, you see me turn up here and talk for 20 minutes and you might think that's all there is to it. But I have a list this long of things that I do. The preparation bit up here, and then after down there, making sure that people can find it and actually see it. So I could just have, I could just do it in my head, which is what I did when I started, and I kept missing things. And of course, as I was doing it, I was learning, and I wanted to add in different elements as well, different things I was going to do to help myself prepare, and also to help myself to do everything else most effectively, because I download the video and I stick it up on YouTube, and you have to write a different kind of description on there, and everything has to be different on YouTube than it is on here. So then I have to do a whole load of other stuff. Because they're two different platforms, and they people expect a different kind of thing on there. So I have this great big long list of things to do, and that could be quite daunting. But because I've made it into a checklist that I can tick, for me, that makes it more fun. So that's a fun element. And the other thing that I do is when I'm planning, so in this part here, I've got the bit where I plan what I'm going to say, I can draw it out on the back. So on the back, I'll do a special kind of mind. Hello, camera. I'm here. Hello. Marvellous. A special kind of mind map that I learned from a guy called Michael Trigg, who does brilliant presentation masterclasses. So, by all means, look him up as well. But I use that, and it's on the back of my checklist. Then what that means is any time I need to do a talk about that topic, I've got a 20-minute talk already planned out, and it's there on the back of my checklist with the date on, so I know I can find it. Super organised, but fun, because I get to colour it in. So that's how routines can be your friends. So just to introduce the idea of having routines, even if it's not your thing, routines can give you more time, because I can whiz through my checklist much quicker than if I was trying to just do it all from memory and flitting about and go and do something else and then think, oh no, I haven't recorded my YouTube intro and outro, which is one of the things that happened at the start. When I do this video, it's obviously all live. And then when I put on YouTube, all of my videos on YouTube have an intro and an outro, all of my most recent ones. And so I like to record the intro and outro the same day that I've done this live. Otherwise, I have different clothes and different makeup and it looks a bit weird. So having it on my checklist means that it gets done. So I'm hoping that makes sense. Is that making sense for you, Tina? Give me a like if it's all making sense to you. So that was part one, all about routines. And I'm going to move on now to part two, which is all about big rocks. So this is a story you might have heard before. Great, it's making sense, good. This is a story you might have heard before, but it's a really good story and it's really useful. So there was a professor at some university somewhere in the world, and she had a class full of students, and she had 2 jars in front of her and a whole bunch of different materials. She had some sand, some gravel and some rocks. So she stood in front of the first jar and she put in some sand, and then she put in some gravel, and then she tried to fit in the big rocks and they just wouldn't fit. There just wasn't enough room in the jar to get everything in. A bit like when we haven't got enough time to do everything. And in the second jar, she started by putting in the big rocks, and then she took some gravel and she put that in, and it all kind of fitted around the big rocks. And then she took the sand, lovely fine very dry sand, poured it in, and it melded itself all around the rocks and the gravel all the way down to the bottom, and she managed to get all of it in the jar. Now, you've probably heard that story before and you know exactly where I'm going with it. But the point is, that's not just some kind of made up thing. It's true. Think of the big rocks as the things that you've prioritized from last week. Those are your big rocks. Anything to do with your goals needs to be a big rock. Things perhaps to do with health need to be big rocks. So thinking about what your big rocks are, what are the things that are really important to you that you want to get done? Not necessarily what other people want you to do, but what are your things? What are your big rocks? And it's about taking your big rocks and putting them in first. And we'll talk about how to do that in a minute. Because if we do all the sand first, which is all those little twiddly things like, oh, just quickly ring the bank and let them know that you're going on holiday next week. Does people still do that? I don't know. But you used to have to do that, didn't you? Or quickly ring and cancel the window cleaner, or any of those little tasks like that. We tend to tackle them first off our to-do list because it feels like we're doing a lot. We're being really productive. We're getting through lots of things on the list. But the trouble with that is we're not putting the time in, we're not putting aside the time for our big rocks. And then so they keep getting put off. And over time that becomes really depressing because you're not making any progress on the things that you really, really want. And so doing, all the little bits first feels in that moment, feels better than tackling a big rock. But in the longer term, it will feel worse. So that's why we need to tackle our big rocks. So there you go, there's the big rock story. I'm hoping that helps to really embed in you why it's so important to do the next step that I'm going to share with you in part 3, which is a default diary, or default diary, depends how you want to say it. I kind of waver between the two. Do you have words like that where you waver between two ways of saying it and you never quite know which one you're going to land on? I do that all the time. So default diary is something that I use every single week. Well, I use electronic diary, so it's just in there as a repeating thing. So I was just going to show you grab my phone, my default diary, which is in my phone, which might look confusing, but don't worry about that. So this is my default diary, and the dark blue ones, those are the default things. So I have in the morning on a Monday to do a review of my finances, of my business, of where I am with my goals and things like that. Don't tell anyone, but it doesn't always happen. Then after that I have service delivery, and then Tuesday is all service delivery, and that's because those are the 2 days that I see my clients. on Mondays and Tuesdays. So that works really well. And then on Wednesdays, I do some learning stuff in the morning. I do my email out to the people who are on my who want to receive my feel good mail. So let me know if that's something you want. I can pop the link in the comments or something. Feel good mail goes out every week. So I have to obviously create it and schedule it and all that kind of stuff. And then Thursdays for sales, because I have to introduce people to what I do in order to be able to help them. And Friday is networking or training in the morning, and then the afternoon is either catching up on stuff that I haven't managed to get done in the week, or catching up with friends sometimes if I've got a bit less on. It doesn't happen very often. And of course, now that I do Feel Good Friday, a lot of Friday afternoon is taken up with my marvellous checklist and all of these things here. So that is my week. And it might sound a bit constraining, but of course within that I can be flexible if I need to. So if I have a client who absolutely cannot do a Monday or Tuesday one week, then of course I can find a way to work around that and be flexible. And sometimes you have a day off, like on Monday we've got a bank holiday, so need to arrange for my review. That doesn't always happen, don't tell anyone. For my review to be on a different day. So what the things that are in my default diary, the things that are in there as default appointments with myself, they are my big rocks in my business. They are the things that will help me find new people to talk to about what I do and how I can help them, and demonstrate to them how I can help them, and lead them to make a decision about whether to work with me or not. Because that's all being in business is. It's helping people to see what you can do for them and helping them make a decision about whether it's right for them or not. And if you don't do that stuff, then you don't have a business because you won't have any customers. So that's why those are my big rocks. So you can do that with anything. You could do that with a business, with your job. If you're in an employed job, it might be a bit more tricky because you have to work around what your boss wants, but you can still find a way to make this work. So my advice to you is not to think, right now you might be thinking, oh, this won't work for me. I can't have the same thing every week because my weeks change. My husband does night shifts and they change every week. Whatever you might be thinking, what I want you to think instead and ask yourself is, how can I use this to help me? How can I use this default diary idea to make me more effective, to help me get more done, and to make it feel like, and to demonstrate to me that I am making progress on the things that are really, really important to me. And that's the beauty of a default diary. So I have gone from being allergic to routines and plans and being told what to do and all that kind of stuff to having a default diary that I stick to, mostly, and having prioritizing my big rocks and fitting them in. Mostly. I am a human, so remember that I do mess up and I do get to a point and I think, oh, I haven't done anything on that project for a while. So what I do with projects is I'll fit them into, so Wednesday afternoon, I said I have my email thing and I've blocked out the whole afternoon, but that doesn't take me all afternoon. So then I can fit in my projects and things. And the other thing to remember is, last week we did about prioritizing. So you've got those things that are urgent, not urgent and important. The things that are important, if you remember the matrix, haven't got it handy, but look at last week's video. If you haven't got your prioritization, prioritized important tasks put into your diary for you to work on, they're just not going to happen. So you need to take your big rocks and actually schedule them in your diary. So you put them in as your defaults for the ones that need to happen regularly, and then you put in time for the actual thing that you're going to do. So if you're working on perhaps, I don't know, a new landing page, a new sales page for your business or something like that, then you could break that down into the tasks that are involved within it, and then you go and put them in your diary at a specific time as an appointment with yourself, and then you do them. And what happens is, little by little, you eat away at that project and it happens, and you get so much more done than you could ever imagine. So we have covered all 3 parts of this talk this morning. I have told you all about routines and how I used to be allergic to them and why I embrace them now. I told you the big rock story, which hopefully has helped to really embed in you why it's so important to have a routine and to prioritise the things that are important. And in the 3rd part, we looked at a default diary very, very briefly, or a default diary, or whatever you want to call it. My aim today was to give you some practical tips for you to structure your time, make the most of it, and be more effective with the time that you do have. Some people have more time than others. Some people have a lot of time, but then in the holidays they don't because the kids are home. So making the most of that time you've got. This session has followed on perfectly from the last one. This was the 2nd most popular choice in the survey, and thank you guys for choosing it because it has really, really worked out great. So join me here next Friday at 9:30, and again I've forgotten to check what I'll be talking about, so I will put it in the description and make sure that you've got that. I will probably do that this afternoon, and then you will have all the information you need. It'll be whatever came 3rd. If there's a tie, I will choose myself. If you want to do some more stuff like this, then do check out my 7 days to tame your to-do list, which again, I'll put the link in the description, like I did last week. If you want it before I've done it this afternoon, if you want it instantly, go and look at last week's video, it's in there. And thank you so much for joining me. Tina, I see you've put a comment. So when you've planned your week, things definitely get done, but after a few days holiday, I've not got back on track. Not even using my morning and evening schedule. Time to get back on track. Yeah, so if you like, Tina, I will hold you accountable to that. Do please get back on track. Start using your morning and evening little checklists. I know that they work really well for you. And that's the power of accountability. And that's what part of what coaching is all about, is having someone expecting you to do it. Makes you more likely to do it. So, but we'll talk about that another time. So I don't want to ramble on for too long. So enjoy your Friday. Have a fabulous week. And I'll speak to you again next Friday here on my page at 9:30. Thanks very much for being with me. Bye. So I hope you enjoyed the video today, the replay from Friday. And do please join me for the next one if you want to. Over on my page, here's where you can find it. And if you don't want to go to my Facebook page, that's absolutely fine. You can just hang around here and I will make sure that I put it here for your convenience. So next week I will be talking all about how to deal with the guilt of spending time with on your business or being at work when you feel like you should be with your family in the holidays. So if that's interesting to you, then you can either join me live at 9:30 on Friday, or you can just hang around here and catch it when I post it, which will be a few days later. So thank you for watching. If you haven't already, do please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on any of my videos. And if you want to, you can click the little notification bell next to it, and that means that you'll get notified when I upload and you won't miss a thing. So thank you so much for watching. I'll speak to you really, really soon in the next video, and have a fabulous day.